the first thing that I need to mention, so Jason showed all the goodies in the app builder on how you produce Blazor application. You have seen so far how you produce Angular applications as code generation out of the app builder. But what we're also shipping with 22.2 is web component code generation. So the same applications that you have been working on so far with the app builder, or that you're going to start working on in the app builder, can now be produced with 4 different targets: Blazor server or Blazor WebAssembly, Angular, or web components. Now, it is pretty much the same thing that Jason was showing in terms of an application that I've put together real quickly, but what you get as a code generated from the service is now pure JavaScript and HTML and CSS. We do have components based on lit element. Lit element is Google's wrapper around the create custom element, the native HTML API. So there is no framework dependency here. And as you can see, we are producing the same grid that you were looking at in Blazor, the same grid in terms of features and functionalities and behaviors that we have in Angular. We now have it also in web components. And I'm going to expand on that a little bit later. Now, the web component code generation is important, and not only web components, Blazor, Angular, because the app builder, so far we were calling this a software as a service application, right? But technically, it turned into a platform some time ago. So this is platform as a service now. It's not really only software as a service. Why is it a platform as a service? Because it changes the way that you can start developing web applications. So far, you had to choose a framework before you go in. And based on the framework you choose how and in what way you're going to build an application. With App Builder, you can actually go the other way around. You can build the application visually and then choose the framework and get the appropriate code and appropriate components. That's why we've been working very hard on bringing parity between web components, Angular, Blazor, and soon React. React is going to get exactly the same component parity as all the other 3 frameworks that we've targeted so far. Now, when I talk about web components and how we bring parity, with the recent releases in Ignite UI for web components, we brought in components like select, like dialog, and like tree. All right. So the tree, if you've used Angular or Ignite UI for Angular so far, you've seen this component. We have exactly the same component now in web components, and works the same way. This is a Bootstrap theme. In Angular, you're going to see by default the material theme, but this one also supports a material theme, and you can see the same thing. And in Angular, for example, we have out of the box, integration with load on demand. In web components, we have the same thing. But the most important thing that I wanted to show you today is what we've done with the grids and web components. Okay, and you will see here I have a view of a pivot grid, and it says Ignite UI for web components right here. It doesn't say Ignite UI for Angular. And the pivot grid looks pretty much the same as what we have in Angular, and it is. So let's expand the filtering here. I'm actually going to switch those 2 up. So let's look at the code, because that's important. I may actually be showing you an Angular application, but I'm going to my view 6, where this pivot grid lives. I have a bunch of configuration here, and I have an IGC pivot grid. And this is a pure web component pivot grid, mimicking the exact same features that the Angular grid has. So let's move over to this one, okay? So what is this? It's a hierarchical grid, right? And if I go to my view 5, right here, I have an IGC hierarchical grid. Now, do those 2 match, right? Let's do something. Okay, I'm going to say allow filtering. Voila, I have filtering on this grid, right? And I'm going to say, well, actually, I want the filter mode Excel style filter. Let's save this. And my filtering changed, and I do have Excel style filter on the IGC hierarchical grid. So you see, I'm not showing you a grid where I'm going to tell you, well, we're going to have the feature parity in 2 years. No, we have the feature parity now, and it's a full-fledged web component grid. So I'm going to do one more thing here. So on the row island, let's say, okay, let's allow filtering here. Voila, my child grid also has filtering. So that's pivot, hierarchical. Well, we have a tree grid as well. Jason showed this one in Blazor. We have it in web components. So smoke and mirrors, here it is, IGC tree grid. That's a pure web component tree grid. And as I said, for the other grids, it supports all of the features that the other grids have. By the way, if you noticed, theming is different, right? Because my tree grid uses fluent light. If I go to the hierarchical grid definition, this one uses material light. Let's see what I have here. Oh, I have Bootstrap dark in the flat grid, right? So let's see Bootstrap flat. All right, I do have a Bootstrap theme here, right? It looks different. It's the same grid with a different theme. Flat basic, I think that's material light. Let's check. Yep, it is. And the other one that I have is also material light. But again, the flat grid, it does have all of the features that the Angular grid has. It ships with everything.